Okay, so after rambling in the last video for about 25 minutes, I realized that I didn't even say the thing that I wanted to say. Because I suck. Sorry I'm in bed, but that other chair actually activates, I have sciatic nerve pain, and it really hurts me a lot, so I had to come over here. I wanted to explain why I'm writing what I'm writing. What I want to write is fantasy fiction. And that's kind of dumb because everybody wants to write fantasy fiction nowadays with George R.R. Martin and J.K. Rowling. That's the genre that everybody wants to write, and they all want to be the next Tolkien. But that's not why I want to write fantasy fiction. They say the rule of writing is to write what you know. And this is where you guys get to see my weirdness. Ever since I was a kid, and even sometimes recently, these things surface. Maybe this explains why I became a pagan, but I have these memories in my mind of being on these magical adventures in another world. And I know they were probably just dreams or something. They're just vague memories, but they're so vivid and clear in my head that I almost believe that they're real. No, I do believe that they're real. I mean, my logical mind explains it away like, okay, well, these were dreams that you used to have when you were a kid, and you just have a really good imagination, but okay, for example, when I was a kid, me and my sister used to have these dark, almost cherry wood bed frames. And on my bed frame, right where I'd lay down my head on my pillow, there was this big, dark knot hole. Like a knot in the wood, in the grain of the wood. It was really dark. Almost looked like an eye. And I have this memory very vivid of being able to stare at that knot hole really, really hard and going into the knot hole. Like I was falling into this big hole. But I wasn't really falling into it. It was more like falling into me. It's like my brain was a sock that you pull inside out or something like that. And I would go to this world where there were fairies and dragons and cartoon characters would be walking around and stuff. And I know exactly what everybody's saying. Okay, well, when you were a kid, you had dreams as you would fall asleep, and that's what you saw. But to me, they didn't feel like dreams. They're not registered in my brain as dream experiences. These are real. I have a very vivid memory of seeing a real live fairy, being surrounded by fairies. And I see the way she flew. She had dragonfly's wings, and she flew. I have this, and even as I close my eyes, I can see it clearly. I see her flying up, and I see her little legs balancing. Like she'd point her toes, and she'd angle her legs in this way so that she would be able to balance and steer herself. And I'd see her going like that and flying up, and her little blonde hair, because the wings would be vibrating like this, and her hair would get like blown up from it, so her hair would be like fluttering. So as she flew up, I'd see it. I could see the image of that so clearly. I also have a memory of this strange creature. This beautiful creature that looked like a sphinx, like an Egyptian sphinx, only it was white. And it would bend down and look at me with these big blue eyes. And I would touch its nose. And I have this weird image of fire people. That's all I could describe them as. Little fire people. Little people that look like their bodies are made of fire and they're always jumping around. I have all these adventures in my head of things that I experienced. And yeah, okay, whatever. They were dreams. I had a great imagination, and the 80s was the time of the fantasy movie genre, so of course, you know, that influenced me a lot probably, but in my mind, those weren't dreams. They're real. They always say, write what you know. So I'm writing what I know. I'm writing what I know. And it affected me so much. Like, growing up, at the age of 15, 16, 17, while most young girls are thinking about boyfriends and college and, God, I want to get a car, I was in the backwoods behind my church trying to see if I could contact fairies. Because I had this ever since... weird. But ever since I was a kid, I had this... maybe I'm delusional. I had this ability to talk to trees. I know. Crazy, weird, woo-woo, new age stuff. Where if you place your hand on a tree and you focus your mind a certain way, you can almost hear the voice of the tree talking back to you in your mind. And so I thought, well, if I can do that, and have all these memories of these magic, fantastic people and creatures and places, maybe I can make that magic happen now. So I would be 16 years old woman, and I would climb a tree, and I would be sitting in that tree. And I always knew that fairies are drawn to singing, so I'd sing. And as you know, I can sing an opera and everything like that, so I'd sing, and then I'd listen and see if any of the fairies would come. I would sit out there for hours. And then my friends would be like, what are you doing? And I'd be like, oh, I'm just thinking, you know? But I'd be trying. I would be really honestly trying. And then I would write the stories down that I remember in my head and that I dream about. And I'd write them, and then my friends would read them and say, wow, these are really great short stories. You should be a writer, you know? And that's how I have my bin full of notebooks from when I was a kid. But like I said, they say, write what you know. I'm writing what I know. I know how to cast magic spells, as crazy as that sounds. I know how to talk to trees. I know how to communicate with the fairies. This is... There are some days where I think if I just focus my mind hard enough, I could get back to that world, wherever it was in my childhood imagination. Maybe it was escapism, you know. Maybe it'd be better to just run away there. Who knows? Maybe I'm just crazy. But that's why I want to write fantasy fiction. It's not because I'm a big fan of George R.R. Martin or Tolkien, or that I want to be the next J.K. Rowling. I don't care about that stuff. I almost have this idea that if I write these books, maybe I can get back there. Maybe it'll kickstart something in my head and I can feel what I used to feel as a kid again.